24/7. So if you hear any meows at the door, it is my cat. Maybe he'll join us later. Who knows? But yeah. Well, look, we might get cracking into it because I am super keen to get into these whiskies, and if we get any latecomers, we'll let them in as we go. But otherwise, this will be a nice little intimate tasting. So I'll just kick off with the introductions. Welcome to tonight's virtual tasting with these super exciting, super rare, exclusive boutique whiskey company bottlings. We have the Australian emissary of boutique with us tonight, Simon McGoram. And the exceptional Dave Worthington, palette extraordinaire at Adam Brands, who will be guiding us through these releases. I think this is probably one of the oldest age tastings we've had all year, which is very exciting. So can't wait to tuck in. But obviously, before we get to all that, and we let Simon and Dave take over, probably Dave, no offense, Simon.
Fair enough.
Just the usual housekeeping. If you've got 6 glasses for the whiskies, we highly recommend it so you can go back and compare. This one will be super interesting because there is quite an array of flavors for all these drams. The usual, please don't drive after these. They are still mostly cask strength. All of our tastings are recorded as well for those who couldn't join us or who want to watch them back tonight, and Ollie will share that link later on. And please pop tasting notes and questions in the chat. I'll get as many answers as possible for you guys, and especially since it's quite an intimate little one, I think we can probably squeeze as much knowledge out of Dave as humanly possible. But yeah, without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Dave, to kind of talk us through these whiskies, how you pick them, the age, everything.
Hi, well, thanks for joining us and thanks for the invite. And yes, this is a cracking lineup. When I looked at the lineup when I first got the invite, I'm thinking, wow, this is some big hitters here. The original lineup was 2 from 2 recent series, because middle of 2020 we started putting whiskies together in a little collection and releasing them with information. And so, yeah, this originally was from 2 series, our Boutique Records collection and 10th birthday collection from last year. Unfortunately, the Bunnahabhain went missing, and we couldn't find the Bunnahabhain that we were going to go, but we found another Bunnahabhain, which was batch 12, a 29-year-old, which is where we're going to start tonight. So let's get some of that in our glass. And yeah, I did find some. And now, the tasting notes for this that I saw on the list this morning, because this was sprung on me very late this morning, like the minute I woke up, and I think, crikey, have I got any of that? I'm going to have to dig deep for that, because I haven't seen any of this Bunnahabhain 29-year-old for a long time. Batch 12. It's a single cask. It's only just whiskey, 40.2%. I think we got this bottled at. And I remember having it as a dream dram a long time ago, 40.3. It's very light, very delicate Bunnahabhain. This was distilled in October 1989. They hadn't started peating back then, but Bunnahabhain from 1963 always up to the mid to late 90s were completely unpeated, mostly as fillings. All they were doing was providing fillings basically for big blends. Black Bottle being probably the most well-known one for their whiskey. That was sort of one of the signature malts of the Black Bottle, but it also went into Cutty Sark before that. Cutty Sark for a long time, which you get that light, delicate Cutty. I'm very fortunate enough to go to the Cutty Sark 100th birthday party the other night, which was just superb.
So I posted about that. I was very jealous.
It was yeah. I the last time I went to Cutty Sark I must have been about 7 or 8, and a very wet November. So yes, it's remarkable to see. It was just sitting in a wet dock, a dry dock, but it was just open, and now it's all covered, and there's a huge events place underneath it now. Beautiful, beautiful. But yeah, you can, when you taste some of that old Cuddy Sark, you can taste some of those Bunnahabhain notes coming out now. I can certainly find it when I pick up some of those older Cuddy Sarks from the 60s and 70s. You can find that really delicate Bunnahabhain note. Now our label on this one, I managed to wake Hannah up this morning and share all our labels tell stories, and I can share a screen, can't I?
Should be able to, yeah.
Yeah. I can share this one. Yes, the one. That's better. Okay, so all our labels tell stories. Boutique Whiskey, we just celebrated our 11th birthday in September. And right from the start, we wanted to be a little bit different. And we wanted our labels to change the game, and they certainly have. When you look back 11 years ago at all the independent bottlers, in fact, all whiskies, they're all pretty dull, the labels is, but you know, there's always traditional, and we wanted to sort of jazz that up a bit and tell stories, because whiskey is about stories. And if you've ever been to the Bunnahabhain distillery, it's probably the most scariest road that I've ever driven down to a distillery. It is just hairpin after hairpin down the hill, skinny little roads with very few places. I hate going down that road. I really do. I mean, Clynelish's not bad because it's just a short road down, and there is a little, the road is quite big to begin with, up to the sort of the dumpster up there, and then it gets a bit skinny down. But Bunnahabhain just seems to go on forever and ever. So that's where we have this skinny road. And of course, the locals race up and down it. So we've got this racing car going up and down. And we just got the picture of the distillery. Now, when this distillery was built in 1881, I think it was, it really was built for the blending industry, like all distilleries back at those times, and everything would have gone in and out on the pier with the little Clyde puffers up and down. If you've ever read any of those Clyde puffer stories, they're well worth a read. But that's, everything would have gone up and down by everything goes up and down by road now, and I just don't understand. It's such a skinny little road, and that's what our label is. Now, our label always, this is our Bunnahabhain label, and it remains constant throughout whatever batch we're doing. However, there's always one little change. So over the years, on the front up here, people on the beach have appeared, people on the pier, the sharks have appeared. Yeah, different things have been moving. You have to look for the little differences on the label, and that's what our label. Just there. Okay, so this was our 12th, 29-year-old, October 89, single hoggy, just 135 bottles. So we were just scraping the bottom of the barrel here. As an independent bottler, you know, we're only as good as what we bottle. Getting hold of whiskey to begin with was difficult, absolutely. But we have got a big network of pals in the industry, brokers. You know, Scotch whisky was built on brokers, whiskey bonders, and that's where we get a lot of our whiskies from. We get our whiskies from three sources. So from these brokers and bonders, for the Scotch whisky, basically fillings. This would have been a cask left for fillings. If you're going to make a 25-year-old blended Scotch whisky, you're going to have some old malts in it. And this would have been one of those casks that have been picked out for us. We decided we'd take it. We also bought a lot of Scotch whisky from private collectors back in the day. These are really hard to get nowadays because most of that boom has gone. This is when Scotch whisky was down on its knees and distilleries were struggling to sell whiskey. Whiskey was worthless. People were being paid in whiskey, and these casks would just be sitting in warehouses, and all of a sudden, now they're getting their payday come back. And we did buy a lot of casks from private collectors who bought back in the 80s, 90s. And nowadays, direct from the distilleries themselves, certainly from the New World. Nowadays, we have distilleries calling us up, asking if we would like to work with them, and you know, can you want to work with some obviously the Australian series that we've bottled have gone extremely well. After the first one, we had lots of Australian distillers call us up and said, could we be in part of it next time, which was great because there's some great whiskey being produced around the world these days. It's not just all about Scotch. When I look at these notes, smoked bacon, vanilla, medicine, and breakfast of champions. I was getting, I mean, when I remember this, it was really tropical and fruity and, you know, really delicate. because they didn't have any smoke back in those days. That didn't start until the mid-90s. So I think someone switched the notes around here. This is not my notes. This would have been picked from, I don't know where these notes were picked out from. I was just looking for the spreadsheet for the original label brief.
On
Really
first nose and first taste, there was a hint of smoke, but it's all tropical for me.
Tropical fruits, isn't it? Yeah. It's all really soft, sort of papaya, really soft papaya.
It's got this there was a cocktail at Whiskey and Element, and it used charred pear as like a garnish on top, and it's that like absolutely blackened pear, so you're still getting that fruitiness, but it's so ashy at the same time, but it's not smoky. And yeah, no, I think Bunnahabhain didn't start laying down peated spirit until 1997, so it was like, yeah, how was there an accident? Like,
yeah,
it is still
it's not
that.
96, 97. Yeah. Because I got a 97 downstairs that my daughter bought me for heavily peated. Yeah, it's one of the early ones. Yeah.
It's amazing stuff. But yeah,
you got a bit of smoke from the wood char on the cask. So depending on how that wood smoke comes across rather than peat smoke, you get that sometimes. Yeah.
I mean, from the amount of ABV the casks seem to have stolen, that wouldn't be surprising.
So 130 bottles, yes, not a lot.
We've had a couple of old Bunnahabhains, Dave, that have had this quite low ABV. Do we know why these Bunnahabhain casks were turning up? So I know we did a 35-year-old, and even our 26-year-old from the Boutique Records series were quite low ABV. And that was just those casks.
I think you look at Bunnahabhain has had one of those turbulent histories of owners changing hands. I just think it's one of those things where casks get overlooked, left behind. No one's looking after them properly, checking them, and that does happen, because I remember a story from another independent bottler. And a Scots whiskey man went in there, and the accountants thought they had thousands and hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of whiskey, and he had to go and taste all of this whiskey that they had sitting in their warehouse. No one had been looking after them, and he had to, over half of them, he said, you can't bottle them as single malts. They're just not good enough, and they had to write it all off. They had it on the books as a value, and I remember him telling me he went through the whole warehouse tasting all of them. Said, No. I'm only prepared to bottle these as malts for this company, our company. The others you're going to have to sell or blend away, because no, they're not for our label. And we've done the same. We turn cask samples away. Absolutely, we turn cask samples away and said can't bottle it. Simple as that. This was tasty, so we bottled it. Yes, it was only 135 bottles. I just think casks weren't being looked after very well at that time.
I think that Bunnahabhain has even some of their modern stuff. When I was chatting to their distillery manager, he was like, they'd ordered a whole bunch of ex-bourbon casks, and somehow 2 rum casks made it into the mix. And they were like, oh, do you want me to get you a sample of the rum cask? And he was like, what rum cask? What do you mean? That's not on our books. They're like, no, like there's a rum cask. And it's like, oh god damn it, and I think they bottled it for Cottery, and it was one of my favorite things ever. But it was sort of like, how long had that been in there before you realized you had a rum cask? Like, he was like, it was a total accident, no one was paying attention. And that was like, I think 15 years ago when he was still at the distillery. So yeah,
those things sort of happen still today. I remember Penderyn, never wanted a peated malt, and all of a sudden they had some casks sent to them that were ex-Isla casks, and someone had just, the guys who are just filling casks, they don't know, they've just been given casks, they fill it. Oh man, where did we get these ex-Isla? They shouldn't have been there. Okay, we need to do something with it. So yes, it still happens today, unless you're buying your cask directly from a distillery. Yeah, these casks will slip in. It's like, when you buy stuff at the market, and they try and put all the nice stuff on the front, and then there's the dodgy stuff at the back, which they throw some of in every time to get rid of when you go and buy your fresh fruit and veg at the market, if you're not picking it yourself. you'll be given some of the stuff that will they want to get rid of, and I think that's what happens with these task brokers as well. They're slipping those in. Yeah, it still happens.
Yeah, amazing.
We've got some great tasting notes coming through on the chat. So Leo's saying it's now starting to open up surprisingly fresh and floral notes. On some of these old Bunnas have got like some almost jasmine notes from them for sure. And then Michael, this is stunning at 40.3%, very tropical pineapple, charred mangoes, light pepperiness on the finish. The nose is just incredible on this.
Yeah,
I think it's a beautiful whiskey, but it does fall away very quickly in the because of that ABV. But it is a beautiful whiskey. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we were right in swapping it around and starting with it, because even though it is quite dry, not dry in yeah, it's hard to describe the dryness of it, like a white wine dryness.
Yeah.
To start off with and whatnot. So I'm very excited to get into and see the waxiness of the Clynelish as our next track.
Yes, number 2. Well, this is from our birthday release, and we celebrated our 10th birthday last year on the 12th of September, and we wanted Emily Chappell's our artist. She's been our artist right from the beginning, and we wanted to let her loose on our birthday labels, and so we let her loose on all of our birthday Scotch labels, and we have the Clynelish label here somewhere. There it is. And I can...
Is anyone picking up lime cordial on the nose right away? Oh, that's so good.
Oh, this is just delicious. Again, it's 47.1% ABV. There was just 300 and I'll read that, 86 bottles. That's so we let Emily loose with doing her silkscreen style of labels, because that's what she does. A lot of her, she does these labels for us that tell stories. Our Clynelish label tells the story of the Clynelish cats, and so we have 3 cats on there on our label. We have the black cat, and we have the Clynelish cat, the black cat from Brora, and then we have a 3rd cat on there, sort of the grown-up cat in the middle. The candles on the cat's paw. And then we have this reference that Can I Has a Cheeseburger, which is a cat meme site apparently, and it's where all of our cat memes come from. We have a page in our company handbook at Atom about using cat memes, and Can I Has Cheeseburger is where these memes are.
Yeah, we actually have an internal back of house site that has a cat of the day, so it'll be a different cat meme every single day
on our ERP system. Yeah, our ERP system opens up, hi Dave, here's your cat of the day, and so cat memes are big things, and Can I Has Cheeseburger. So Emily just recreated this cat with the cheeseburgers flying around its head with the candle, and cheekily she's added a 3rd eye to this cat, because one of our other creations is the mutant mule. Emily Chappell, mutant mule, she does these brilliant t-shirts with the 3-eyed mules and the 3-eyed beasts. I'm a big fan of what she does, and so she's just sneaked that 3rd eye, which I absolutely love. I don't think everyone noticed that 3rd eye there as part of a mutant mule series there. But yeah, it was just to allow Emily a free reign. I've got a whole picture, a whole set of these. She was doing the artwork for this, and so this is a 25-year-old Clynelish. We pulled out all the stops for this, and this is just beautiful. Sort of waxy. I'm going to sort of plasticine, I think I got when I first got it. But yeah, waxed pineapples and tangerines and briny. Yeah.
Yeah, Ian's getting a fresh mint finish on it as well. I'm definitely getting that on the finish, when you're chewing on like fresh mint leaves and stuff. I love, Simon, that you can buy the prints on Etsy. I will say, we'll let you guys in on a secret. We also post cat memes non-stop in our just in our work WhatsApp. I think there was a few today recently. lots and lots of pet memes, interspersed with some actual work, but yeah, we're I'm looking forward to seeing a Nyan Cat meme label. I anticipate that coming up as well. And obviously you've got the Doge.
So yeah, this was our full birthday lineup of scotches that Emily did the screen print, the sort of very simple 3 or 4 colours that she could screen print these, and she did a limited run of prints for these as well. And I've got to get some t-shirts made up. So we have the Abelard with the mash up that she's opened up. We have these are all elements from the original labels as well, with the Ben Nevis, which we'll be coming on to shortly, with the guy at the top of the a 45-year-old blended grain, which took elements of the original blended grain, and the Doge at the end for our space side. So that was all the custom labels. And you'll notice the bottles changed. We had to change the bottles for this, and we put gold tops on because it was our birthday. But the bottle change wasn't designed. It's just that there were no bottles available. And I quite like these bottles. Lots of people changed bottles last year. There was a bottle shortage around the world last year, glass shortage. So lots of people were putting whiskey in different bottles. Otherwise, it is either put whiskey in something different or don't put anything out at all. So it just conveniently fell on our birthday, and we did put the whole range. I think all of the world whiskies for our birthday, which we've got the Millstone shortly, and not the blend, this one, but we had to change the bottles to this shouldered just for that lot there.
That's so interesting. Is that going to be like a long-term thing, or it's all kind of settled out now? You've got your
but we're going back to the original boutique bottle, but one of our other ranges, Darkness whiskey, will be moving into that bottle eventually.
Oh, nice.
Just so we to manage supply, I guess.
I
Something you wouldn't
kind of
think you'd have to
differ.
worry about is the shortage of glass, but yeah, it happens.
We have the aspect back for boutique. We only ever put the boutiques in these shouldered bottles once. I like them, I must admit. They're a little bit lighter. I quite like the look of them, but everybody else liked the standard aspect, so we went back to the aspect. Even with our new 70 CLs, we're back in the 70s, the standard aspect.
I will say, from a physics standpoint, the more curved one is technically stronger than the shoulder bottles. So, there is, for safety's sake, there's some justification.
That's right, especially if you're going to have like some Clynelish 25-year-old in your speed rail in a bar. That shoulder can be quite dangerous.
Just a cheeky $200 nip for house pour. Something like that. But yeah, no. Leo's getting some white stone fruit on the nose on it as well. I definitely feel that, like white nectarines and stuff like that, I reckon. Lemon squash, strong acidic citrus notes, lime and grapefruit. Yeah, it's classically waxy, but it's way more fruity than I think I anticipated from the Clynelish, and I love it.
Yeah, the first time we showed this was at Whisky Live Paris last year, just before we actually launched them in the UK, and loads of people. I mean, it was the talk of Paris Whisky Live last year. Everyone was going around, you've got to get up, and we were up in the VIP zone in La Maison de Whisky special shelf, and you had to have a special ticket to get up there. And there was a buzz about and people trying to get up to taste the Clynelish, and we had the Ben Nevis there as well that day. What were the 2 big ones that we had there? Yeah, lots of people saying it was the best Clynelish they'd tasted for such a long time. So that was really nice.
Yeah, I remember hearing rave reviews about it from people who'd been. I think though, I think there was like a Hidden Spirits Clynelish 25-year-old, like 4 years ago as well, that went gangbusters. That might have been in Germany. I think the European market just loves Clynelish. It's hard not to. Yeah. Well, shall we crack onto the oldest whiskey that we are tasting today? The
blended
40-year-old.
Indeed, let's do that. Okay, a 40-year-old blended Scotch whiskey. 3 blended Scotch whiskies, 1, 2, and 3. Keep it simple. Slightly different styles. But blended whiskey number 1, I think we first released this in 2015, the first batch, and it won us the world's best blended whiskey at the World Whiskies Award at that time. And it really did put boutique whiskey on the map at that time. And I remember it quite clearly, and I've got a bottle somewhere in the back there. This is our 10th batch. We picked up a fair few bottles of casks of this over the years. This sort of style, not always from the same place. Again, I have no idea where it and what it came from. I've got a good idea, because you just always look for where things have been changing hands. And I knew there was a lot of Edrington blended stock on the market, and it does. Some of our boutique blends do remind me of those very old Cuddy Sarks. And certainly some of the 25, sort of 27-year-olds that we bottled remind me of the 25-year-old Cuddy Sarks before they went a little bit commercial. If you were very fortunate enough to take, maybe even the Tam O'Shanter was definitely that Edrington blended stock. And I think this probably is something similar that's been sitting around in a warehouse that they were going to maybe do a big anniversary edition of it, and then it all fell through. The company fell apart, changed hands. And it didn't happen, and so this stuff gets sold off because we've had 50-year-olds, and I think the first batch we did was 35-year-old, and then we've had some older stuff, and we've actually had some 50-year-old blended whiskey number 1, which I think all came from this. And can you taste those old Macallan or Glenrothes? You know, these are sort of malts that went into this. Glenrothes, Bunnahabhain, Tamdhu, these are the sort of malts that went into those old Edrington blends. So this is where you got to can you. And I remember there was a 40-year-old Sanachi that was bottled, and that was definitely an old Edrington blend, and Tamdhu, Glenrothes, Highland Park, Bunnahabhain, they were the signature malts in that one. And this kind of reminds me of that as well. There must have been an awful lot of this stuff hanging around. Or maybe it was just sitting around. Yeah, we haven't done anything to it. We were just fortunate enough to be offered it at a price that was acceptable, and we bottled it at a price that was reasonable. You know, if someone else could bought this and put it in a fancy bottle and a fancy box and charged an awful lot of money with a bit of Harris tweed inside the box or something like that.
Yeah. So did it come as a single barrel already blended? Yeah.
It comes in big butts.
Yeah.
Most of it's been married in butts. Sometimes we have done some blends where we do add something ourselves, or we bought something and we'll add something to it. But these ones we bought, tasted, and said, yeah, we can do something with that.
Yeah, this is amazing. I completely agree, Leo. It's got the rich raisins of Tamdhu. I'm getting the dried dates that you find sometimes in Glenrothes, and that leather tannin from the Macallan, like old school Macallan. Yeah, it's amazing. And yeah, I agree with Leo. I want to meet the blender and shake their hand. This was really well crafted.
The blends have been the blended one. Yeah, why have we got the sphere and the white-handed gloves? Well, it's basically that we've knocked all the sharp corners off. This long age of blending has taken all. It's just a very well-rounded dram. We have 3 labels using the white gloves and yeah, just shockingly bad puns. Basically, we've got the white gloves for the smooth sort of space velvet, and then we have the white gloves with a rod that just disappears into the distance for our blend number 3, which is the one that's very, very long finish. It just lingers and lingers. But this is the big rounded one, and the one that really put our name on the map really for an independent bottler. Again, this label has always been similar, but there's not a lot you can change here. But we have this little rocket on the top here that appeared in one of them, and it does move around, and the stars and the constellations move, and we have changed the constellations a little bit. So there's the things to look out for on the different batches.
Yeah, cool. It's almost like that thing of you get enough bottles together and you can kind of turn them into one of those flipogram things.
Yeah. I have done some of those little GIFs every now and again when I get all the labels and put them together and say, this is how they change, and you watch them move. I think the more one is probably the best one for that, where you see the lifeguard running across chasing the little boy. I think that would be quite a fun one to put through as a GIF. So there's our notes there for that one. 246 bottles, 48.3. So yes, it was just a small portion.
Yeah, amazing.
This unfortunately was one I haven't tried and don't have a sample of, so I didn't get in quick enough to get a pack, but I'm hoping to try it over the next couple of weeks. I'm very excited to, especially after some of these reactions in the chat.
Yeah, so if we can all make Simon as jealous as possible without hating it, that would be excellent. Ian, I fully understand what you mean when you said the label reminds you of Spaceballs. It is fully that. I can't remember that actor's name, but in the helmet and everything, it is giving that vibe, which I love. Yeah, Leo, the Tamdu Glenroth's influences, Ollie's jumping ahead to the Ledaig, trying to pre-pour everything. But
to let breathe.
Yeah. I will say that one probably might, benefit from some breathing just for the ABV. But yeah, that's amazing. I think it's so tricky as well to get really good blended whiskey at those high age statements and obviously still have it technically be a whiskey with the ABV, and to have it so well rounded, because there are so many of those older age statement blends that are licking out of a barrel.
Yeah, overwooded, which is exactly what I thought this was when the first sample came to me. If you can see this color, it's completely opaque. I can't see through the whiskey. I can't see the screen through here. This is the Millstone, the next one that we're coming to. A 25-year-old Dutch whiskey. I'm a huge fan of this little distillery. He was the guy who turned me, his whiskey turned me on to rye. He's just, I think, every distiller's favorite distiller. He's passionate about copper pot stills. He's passionate about old old sherry casks, absolutely passionate. And he does go and somehow manage to get these casks out of sherry bodegas. So these are old casks, not just seasoned casks. These have been sitting in a Solara system for years. And this is one of his early casks. And he offered this for our 10th birthday, which we were blown away with. No, it wasn't cheap. It seriously wasn't cheap. However, he didn't sort of have our eyes out for this. And it was really well received when we launched it. But yeah, lots of people ummed and ahed over it because it's, I don't know, £400 or something over here, 350, £400. It's just a lot of money. Until a couple of weeks ago, WhiskyFun reviewed it. And then we all of a sudden had a surge on everyone trying to find it. I was being called up, Dave, where can I find it? Where can I find it? Well, I've been telling you where it was. And we sold out. I knew I think we had 24 sitting in bond. And I was moving one case at a time because I wanted to leave some in bond just in case export wanted it, but it sold out. And as soon as they put it up, it sold out. As they put it up, it sold out. In 2 days, we sold everything out, and people were chasing me to find out who else had it. So yeah, this is really kind of special. It really is a bit of a birthday treat. We bottled this at natural cask strength, 46.5, 25 years old. This is from Patrick's early distillations. I mean, this guy grew up in a distillery. His father was a distiller who thought he could do a better job. So he went and set up his own distillery. So Patrick grown up in a distillery. He used to play inside the stills at a 5-year-old. In fact, he used to clean them out because he could get in them. He made his first spirit cuts at the age of 12. He talked his father into making whiskey. He talked his father into making rye whiskey, and when he first did it, he thought he'd made a huge mistake and wouldn't tell his dad. And all of a sudden, it's some of the best rye whiskey in the world comes out of this guy's distillery. He distills everything, and everything I've tasted that he does is absolutely beautiful. He makes a great rum. He makes amazing rye whiskey, the best rye whiskey in the world, I think. It's a 50-50 mash bill, malted, unmalted. This is 100% malted barley. They were growing all of their own grains. They can't keep up with it now. The distillery has grown. He's got quite a few stills now, like 7 or 8 different size stills, all copper pot stills. Doesn't use anything else other than copper pot stills. They were using family windmills to grind the grain. They can't keep up with the windmills anymore. They have to put mechanical grinders in there. And yeah, this really is a little drop of liquid history from the beginning of the Millstone label, I would say. They still do, you know, they make the Geneva is where they started making their name. Yeah, it's green. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I think were they either the Bowles Genevieve family, or were they related to the Kettle One vodka? I can't remember what the Zuidam family.
I don't know where he was working, but he's working for a Dutch distiller,
Yeah.
making Geneva, and decided he could do better. And they started their own distillery up in a small shed, and it's grown and grown and grown. Which is why we have Patrick as a Willy Wonka in his distillery factory. So we've got the windmill, we've got pot stills everywhere, we've got the grains growing. Yeah, the Oompa Loompas are carrying grist and grain and casks. It's instead of a river of chocolate, it's a river of whiskey. And we have bottled rye, we've bottled rum, we've bottled his malts, and yeah, we're huge fans of him. And there was another 25-year-old Millstone at the Whisky Show in London last weekend, 2 weekends ago, and it was the talk of everyone. Was obviously WhiskyFun blog has a big pull on this. We've been saying this guy is fantastic for a long time. We're so huge fans of what they've been doing. And if you get him on as a guest, I mean, I called him up and said, can you come on? You fancy coming on one of these Zoom chats and talking to us about rye? He said, try stopping me talking about rye. He's just the nicest man ever. And he'll always sit in his still room, immaculately dressed. He's just such a nice guy. So this little village where the distillery is one of those unique villages in the Netherlands. It's near the border of Belgium, but it's got one of those towns where there are little enclaves of Belgium within the town. So if you Google where the distillery is, Nassau, I think the name of the village is, there's borders all over the place. So his next door neighbor is Belgium. And just that part of the street, there's like a few houses with a border fence around it. You know, there's borders painted on the, as you're moving between the Netherlands and Belgium within the town. And it's a few miles away from the actual city, the country borders. Yeah, it's a unique little place. Very weird. Yeah.
Yeah, Patrick Zuidam is definitely on my list of people to meet, and yeah, I've been keeping an eye on Millstone whiskey for the longest time. I think it's so exciting, and it's new world in a way that's not new world like all the Dr. Jim Swan, distilleries are. Like it's new world in that it's forging its own path, and it's so cool and exciting. I love the comments, Dominic. I completely agree. I would have thought the sweetness on the nose, because I was getting like agave syrup and maple syrup and all that sweetness, and then yeah, it's this like dry as raspberry creaming soda on the palate, which I love. Leo loves it. You're a big Millstone fan. Paul was lucky enough to nab a bottle. I know that Chris, when I was up in Sydney, Chris was full on harassing Simon. How can I get a bottle of this? I need one. No, give it to me now. So that, yeah, it's definitely been super highly.
Yeah, the review came out like literally the day before we did Oak Barrel Whiskey Fair. So yeah, got to see the guys there, of course, with Whiskey Sponge, and yeah, it was a very popular dram at the show.
Yeah, I just remember Chris cornering you like, how do I get a Millstone? I need a Millstone. He's like, you're like, God, just chill.
So Chris wasn't working the fair, and I remember trying it because he messaged me. He's like, "Try this whiskey, got 93 points." I found it in the rare bar. That Simon had a bottle there at the Oak Barrel Fair, and then I messaged Chris, David Legoff, a few others, and I said they're all big fans of Millstone, and I said just wow, and then like 15 minutes later, Chris turned up at the fair, and he's like, "I need to try it for myself." So
It's the only way we can get him out of the house is with good whiskey. But,
I
yeah.
think Serge described it as, on a par with, if you put this against old Macallan, you wouldn't know.
100%. I actually fully agree with that. I've tried a couple really old Macallans, and it's got that like burnished old leather kind of thing to it that old Macallan had. It's
and a tenth of the price of an old Macallan, I think it was. Yeah, I think when he compared it, yeah.
I've just asked Dominic to unmute because he's a big fiend of Macallans and a lot of these other ones like the Ben Nevises. But Dominic, what do you think of her having tried it now?
I texted you the word ouch because in the end I didn't manage to grab a bottle of you guys, so that it just hurts. No, it's so beautiful. The other thing I'm getting is wooden, the varnish, the to polish off the old wood you get, but it's so beautifully integrated with the whole package. I mean, as I said in the text, so the nose is rather on the sweet side, which you would expect, but most whiskeys you don't get these days when they follow up with a lot of sultanas and sweet sort of. This one is far more restrained and elegant and so much more multifaceted. So whatever cask they got their hands on, his hands on, he is just a miracle worker, because that's an absolutely gorgeous cask. And it begs the question, are these casks still around? Is sherry whiskey that we get these days, can it typically get to that level? And most of it can't. And I think you have to be very, very, very insisting or very fortunate or both to get a cask like that. And yes, maybe the distillery character might, I don't know. I don't, you know what? I think this is a really happy marriage between the distillery character and the cask, but it is ultimately an exceptional cask. So that's what I would add.
Yeah,
Absolutely. It's a one-off cask, yeah. I mean, most sherry casks today are manufactured for the whiskey industry. This wasn't manufactured for the whiskey industry. This was a sherry cask, a Bodega cask, not a shipping cask. So most of the old Macallans, old Clynelish, those old whiskies that have been released by Gordon and MacPhail over the years were in the big old sherry traveling cask. That 75-year-old Mortlach that they released a few years ago, that was a traveling, shipping cask, basically what sherry used to be shipped in and then rested in a warehouse in Bristol or Liverpool and then decanted the sherry out. And that was one of those casks that was around for such a long time. This was one that was sitting in a Bodega and that was replaced. It was replaced in a Solara system, so sherry would have been pouring through this for I think he said like 100 years, and he has a few of these. Yes.
Yeah, it really calls back to the old style sherry casks that they were using. And I mean, look, the old Macallans that I've tried are thanks to Dominic mostly. But yeah, it's just when you taste those old school casks compared to modern casks, and it's not to poo-poo modern sherry whiskies, but it hits different, right? And I agree with Ollie. We need to run a poll without the Millstone, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be a clean sweep for the Millstone at this point. But we might try and see if we can best it. But I highly doubt that.
So this was distilled in 96, and back in 96, we're still using a bit of Paxaret back then, I'm sure.
Paxaret, the late 80s, 1980s was when Paxaret stopped.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it would have been just shy. Look, there might have.
You're talking about the Nevis here now, Dave, right?
No, I was just thinking about the big old sherry whiskies in from Scotch whiskey back then. Would Paxaret casks been into it? There might have been some casks still lying around with that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should totally bring back Paxaret. That was amazing.
Nevis is a dirty Nevis.
But yeah,
Surely we can
moving
probably
on.
get away with it in Australia, right? Like Paxaret, surely we could get away with it down here.
I have heard whisperings that there is a not a distiller. They insist on not being called a distiller, who is making some Australian Paxaret and using it for whiskey and for finishing. But yeah, we could definitely get away with it in Australia, and especially because of the fortified wine industry we have, maybe. But yeah, I think the amount of Paxaret that was going around in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s before it was cancelled, that was some of the best stuff. So yeah, hopefully we can get that back. But yeah, moving on to the Ben Nevis 25-year-old, which we were going to put this before the Millstone, but I have tried this before and it's just very savory. So I think ease out of the sweetness.
I'm glad I listened to you, Emma. Thank you very much.
Just quickly, I don't know why our website's saying the Millstone's in stock. We've long sold out, so don't buy it if it lets you buy it, because then Chris will sadly refund you, and we'll go through this endless loop of disappointment.
If I can get any more bottles for the whiskey list, I'll get Ollie to message everyone that bought a ticket for tonight. Get first a crack at that if I can get some more allocated to you. There's a handful of bottles. We are trying to save some for a whiskey show. But yeah, it's few and far between. There's some in Singapore. If anyone's going over there, you can get some in Singapore currently.
Dominic books his flight.
Yeah, Dominic's now looking for flights to Singapore or trying to hunt down your house and breaking it.
There is actually a really cool whiskey show in Singapore next week where Boutique will be and Millstone will be on pour. It's called the Malta Fair. So that's on Saturday in Singapore next week. So if you want to go to Singapore, it's a great show to go to. It's a lot of independent bottlers there. A lot of people bring private collections. It's one of those shows where you pay per taste, but that'd be well worth going to, and there will be Millstone over there.
So Dominic's there in 2 weeks apparently. So we'll take this chat offline, Simon and Dominic, and we'll see what we can sort out. Whilst we're on the topic, very quickly, I haven't put together a link or anything. It's very much first dibs. We are holding back a very small amount of each SKU, except this Millstone. If we can maybe find it, sure. Send me an email if any of these interest you, and we'll do our best to accommodate you. It's incredibly rare whiskey we're tasting tonight, so we'll do our best to find you the bottle you're looking for.
Yeah, 100%. Gosh, this is so much more savory than I remember. It's like lemon chicken and roast Swedes and turnips.
Yeah, the nose and the palate are separate sometimes for me, and the palate's delicious, but the nose, sometimes when you first get it, yeah, that sort of little bit of rosemary almost in there. Very, very savory. Yeah, Ben Nevis, 25 years old, 1996 distillation. It's sort of very fashionable at the moment. It's yeah, Ben Nevis sort of hit and miss. Has been for a long, long time, hit and miss. I guess things are looking up for it today. I feel like it is. Certainly seems very popular for the young stuff coming out now. A lot of this whiskey new make spirit goes straight to Japan. Ben Nevis has been a backbone of a lot of Japanese whiskies for a long time. One of the early Scotch whiskies that were saved by the Japanese. And around this time, I think they were making two distinct distillation ferments. They're doing long ferments for the UK and short ferments for Japan at that time. But that's all changed, and there's just one ferment now. And so this would have been one of their longer ones. And they use brewer's yeast, or they were using brewer's yeast rather than distiller's yeast. Yes, it's very, very musty. Parsnips. Yeah, that's a good note. said parsnips here. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it is a little bit sulfured. Absolutely, parsnips, vegetables, cabbage water is a little bit sulfured. That's what it is. There's no question about it. But over time, that sort of, I reckon this would have been a dreadful distillate. If we took this at 10 years old, it had been undrinkable, perhaps. It's just time has let that run away with it. But the flavour on the palate, it's big, it's meaty. I mean, I put balsamic glaze. That's what I picked on it straight away. I think the palate is very, very different. The nose puts me off a little bit. I'm really sensitive to sulphur, I must admit. And some of them, this just gets better with a little bit of time, a little bit funky. But on the palate, it's I can still pick it up at the back of my nose, that little bit of savoury, sulphury cabbage water. But the rest of the big meaty flavours are taken over, that leather, that tobacco. It's slightly waxy almost. I was just tasting Ben Nevis. Got Ben Nevis sample here somewhere. And I said, it's around from the same era. Yeah, 26-year-old 96, exactly the same era. Very, very light, much lighter than this one. Very, very light style. It was so waxy. I thought, are you sending me a Clynelish here? This is not Ben Nevis. I mean, it is really waxy. This is a little bit waxy, but it's dirty and it is sort of classic 96. Yeah, that nose, I still get it, but
I like the that balsamic note that you brought up. It's like 100%. I get that. That's the rancio, just that overripe fruit. Certainly the way it's going. It's a unmistakable dramness. It has been one I've done a couple of tastings with it that can be quite polarizing, and some people love it. They love how dirty this is.
People are all over us for it. Yeah, at the whiskey show, they love that dirt, and it's sold out very, very quickly. That was our label we let Emily loose with. It's an element of our Ben Nevis label, and we've got another element of the Ben Nevis label actually in the glass. Yeah, it's just a great label. I love what Emily's done. Yeah.
Because the original label has a mountain, someone going up Ben Nevis, holding a glass with Ben Nevis in the glass, with someone holding a glass of Ben Nevis, right? To keep it so.
Yes, it's one of those endless. Yeah, we've got the guy who's climbed up the top of Ben Nevis, looking down to the distillery at the bottom called Ben Nevis, and he's holding a glass of whiskey. He's holding a bottle of Ben Nevis in his hand and a glass, and obviously on that label of Ben Nevis, it's got the same label, him. Yeah, and as you go through the batches, you have the little men climbing up. You see different, as I said, they change every batch. So you get these climbers that are climbing up. So from batch 1 to 2 to 3, you see the climbers climbing up. You see a Land Rover appear, like the rescue Land Rover. All those sort of little things in the background going on all the time.
Very cool. Yeah.
Classic Ben Nevis.
Yeah, this is so. I think Ben Nevis is getting its time in the sunlight because there's a lot of parallels to some of those dirty old Springbanks. And so people are like, well, Ben Nevis is just a poor man's Springbank, which I mean, Ben Nevis is great on its own as well, you know. But yeah, no, that balsamic nose again. I like what Michael said as well, with roast lamb with rosemary gravy. Yeah, and like a balsamic jus as well. You know, it's that savory balsamic sweetie kind of thing. I'm assuming potatoes and turnips is what neeps and tatties mean. I'm very confused by the neeps and tatties tasting now.
It's a Scottish thing.
Okay, sure.
Neeps and mashed potatoes. So neeps and mashed swede, turnips, and tatties and mashed potatoes. Yeah, haggis, neeps and tatties.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I will keep that in mind for next time I'm over there. I'm sure I can come up with an array of confusing American foods, but that's more than fair. Yeah, the parsnips is a great call as well, and like it's fully that really vegetable. Yeah,
definitely not the time that I can shake that sulfur away now, and it made my glass go funny colour now.
I've had some old Nevis before, like really heavily sherried old Nevis that's been like soy sauce. It's been it's just been so like gone way too far down that sulfur route. This is on the palate is fantastic. And yeah, it's funky, it's dirty, it's classic Nevis.
Yeah, 100%. You can get those ones where it goes like almost Chinese 5-spice. Just really, really crazy. And it definitely really leans into that not keen on physical dinner, have liquid dinner, you know. it's all the sides, the main course of what you would want for a dinner by the fireplace kind of thing. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's for me, it's much better on the palate than the nose, I must admit. But
yeah, I fully agree that sulfurous note, which is more kind of like, I think, erring towards spirit sulfur rather than barrel sulfur. And like, I'm not the biggest Ben Nevis, Ben Rinnis fan. I find Ben Rinnis is too sulfury for me, but this is bordering on that kind of line.
Oh, I'd love Ben Rinnis. It sounds like a challenge, Emma. Find you some delicious Ben Rinnis.
There's great Ben Rinnis. It's that and Altmore. Altmore is a bit too fermented fruit sulfur for me. So
this challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. Both of those.
Down.
Yeah, this is just an excuse to get you to send me whiskey, right?
Yeah.
But Ian, does the sulfur note come from the still run? Typically it shouldn't. Mostly it's like you don't really want sulfur, but between spirit sulfur and barrel sulfur, I think you probably want more barrel sulfur, I imagine. What do you think, Dave? Simon?
It's some of the heads coming across. I think it's just poor distillation cuts. Yeah, personally, it's the heads coming across. Simple as that. They haven't. Someone's not.
Yeah, obviously, some distilleries aim to have a slightly more sulfury make. Like even distilleries like Glenkinchie, they've just got like this overcooked cabbage, aroma at the distillery. That's not uncommon, but certainly if you got too much heads going through, and that's coming through in your mature spirit, that's not ideal.
Well, you got to remember all those distilleries were set up with these cuts for the blenders. All the Scottish distilleries were set up by, the style of whiskey that the blenders needed. And if they wanted something a little bit sulfury, because they're not going to bottle it as it is, they're going to use a small portion of it to add to these grains and other malts to give that body to it. So in small quantities, it's exactly what they want. But bottle it as. So I'm definitely coming from the cuts. That's why all these distilleries, sitting alongside each other are doing different things. They're next door to each other and they're both supplying whiskies to the blending market, but they're two distinct styles because that's what the blenders have dictated. Scotch whiskey is always been about.
It's a character that we don't see a lot of in Australian whiskey in particular, because we're releasing such young whiskies. You cannot get away with any sulfur in your new make spirit. With Scotch, because of the blending industry and because they're laying it down for much, much longer, it's much more forgiving. And so you do get these more sulfury, meaty spirits, and time does all the work for you.
Yeah, time does the work. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think we should hop on to the youngest whiskey of the tasting. Speaking of little time, the youngest whiskey of the tasting, the Ledaig 19-year-old. I think the 19-year-old Ledaig batches that you bottle are some of, hands down, my favorite boutique releases.
Wow.
I think
now, this is another distillery that's had one of those checkered histories, that's had one of those yes and no histories, and you can get good batches of Ledaig and you can get it's a distillery that's been troubled history, I guess. It closed for a long period between 1930 and 1972. And then even then, from the 70s all the way up until Burn Stewart took it over, it was up and down and up and down. They've lost part of the warehousing, became a cheese factory, it became holiday lets. It did, and it was unloved. And we have bottled a 23-year-old Ledaig that's not Ledaig at all. This is, we talked about casks being mixed up and the wrong cask being sent, or the lack of care in the spirit cuts or whatever. We have an unpeated Ledaig. So obviously they painted the casks up as Ledaig, and they were actually doing a Tobermory spirit run and just put it in there. So we have to bottle it as a Ledaig because it's labelled as a Ledaig, but it's totally unpeated. And you think, oh, this is Tobermory. So yeah, 19-year-old Ledaig, part of our boutique records collection. We had a whole collection now. I've got a slide here of all. Why did we do this? Well, let's just share this one first. So we released a collection. This is our first departure from the standard labels. Really because everybody was doing, I mentioned that, 10 years ago, everyone was doing quite standard labels with the Scottish name, maybe a bit of tartan, maybe a piper, very kitsch. And then over the years, people started putting more graphics and art on their labels. I mean, even the Diageo special releases, when I looked at them, I had changed their special releases to all these graphics and bright. I said, oh, you put a load of boutique labels on there. And I got a dagger stare from Colin Dunn. I said, we need to up our game. And so we had a few ideas, and there was, all of us are heavily into music. Ex-DJs, not me, musicians, record collectors, and we thought, well, let's get a music. We're well into our music, so we went for a record label, boutique records labels. Now I wanted to go into genres of music, so I went down, because my music collection is vast and covers just about everything. But we ended up with sort of formats. So we started off with the waxy Daluan, the old 78s, and we went for Dubtown. We went for the white labels, the DJs and in there, and we went for lossless. I think this is Ledaig, and that's actually Ledaig sound waves there, Ledaig as you say it. And we went for a whole collection of, but even with the mixtape as the blend there, and that was our record collection labels. They look great together. They really do. Lots of shockingly bad puns hidden on there. The Dubtown with the B side, because it's a burn side. And we got compiled by DJ Stewart, David Stewart there on the labels there. And we've got Glen Allachie, Pedro X remix, and Bourbon remix, a Bourbon cast, Pedro Jimenez mix. So there's just lots of shockingly bad puns on our labels there. I think that the Daluan one was probably the most geekiest one there. There's a reference around there in Latin to Christopher Wren, about if for those, the builder of London, basically after the London fire. If you're seeking a statue, a reference to the builder of this, look up sort of thing, and it's the same sort of thing to Doig. If you want to see a reference to the statue to this man, Charles Doig, just look at any distillery in the world, and you'll see that little pagoda style roof. Even from distilleries that don't even have a kiln, they model themselves on this thing. Just look up. There's the monument to the man, and so we just sold for us by the sulphur 4. Yeah, just so stupid. Yeah, shockingly bad puns on our labels. But going back to the Ledaig. 19 years old. This was our lossless label, I think. Lossless, I don't know. Flak, I think we've got on here, yes. There's that label, there it is. So yes, we put up. So this is bottled at natural cask strength. That's a single cask. Warning, exquisite whiskey.
Dave, a question for you. Who was the voice model to pronounce it and then record it so you could come up with those wavelengths?
I think we got a Scots person to, I think we had John Muldoon say this for us. I think we had it recorded. Yeah. We definitely got someone in the company. Maybe we got someone in the bottling plant up in Edinburgh to say it. I can't remember. But yes, we did record it. Sam recorded it, and then we sent the graphic over to
John
him.
Muldoon is very Scottish.
It's a lot of pressure though. You don't want to end up with like a Benedict Cumberbatch situation where, you know, he voices a documentary on penguins and can't even say the word penguin. If you've never seen that clip,
It is brilliant. It is brilliant.
Like, the penguins. You're like, oh no.
We're obviously the importers of all of the distill range in Australia. So we had a mixed table at one of the shows a few years ago, and someone came up to us and goes, you've got your Bunna, your Deanston, your Tobermory, and he goes, I'd like to try the Ledaig. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, which whiskey? We got there eventually, but yeah, it's Scottish pronunciations, Aussies as well.
I'm not a Gaelic speaker. I don't pretend to be a Gaelic speaker, so I'm quite happy when people come up and ask for a Ledaig. It doesn't bother me at all, I must admit. It's what it looks like, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the same thing, right? It's like you can't go, I'm going to have, a croissant. Like, who says that every time you go into a bakery or, do you have any chorizo? Try and get that real Spanish list. We don't you can't get too uptight about it, I feel.
No.
Yeah. Everyone's always going to have those things. My dad pronounces it as roti bread instead of roti. And I'm like, you just make it sound gross, But yeah, I think it's one of those things where you got to lean into the pronunciation. Like, I love calling Auchentoshan, Oshitoshi or Oshkosh Bagosh, you gotta, I thrived on the day I had someone order, can I get a Macallan? And I'm like, yes, you can. You just gotta take those precious moments where you can.
Absolutely. I like Laguvulin.
Yep, Laguvulin, Lafrog.
Good one.
Oh yeah, Othrusk, Ochria. I've had so many people want to order an Othrusk and they're like, can I get this one on the menu? I'm not even gonna attempt it.
That's the very reason why it didn't become a single malt. It was the original Singleton, wasn't it? And then they pulled it. No one could pronounce it. And I remember when they did it as their exclusives, a notable wanted to say Othrusk. Yeah, it frightens you just to look at. I think, yeah, it frightens a lot of people when they look at it. Oh Christ, yeah.
I would say probably my favorite is, especially obviously when you're translating Scottish Gaelic, and writing it out in English lettering, and then you're translating it to another language and then retranslating it back to English. The guys at Whisky and Ailment were on an auction website and they retranslated it back to English, and they were like, oh, this 19-year-old authentication whiskey. It was Auchentoshan, but the Japanese parts of how they were pronouncing it was like, well, authentication is the closest we can get to saying this.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I worked out in the Far East for a long time, and there's no B's in Thai. There's no B's, so Volvo is whoa. Whoa.
It's as you can imagine, boutique it has its issues in Asia. It's quite popular in Taiwan and Japan in particular, and you can't translate that boutique whiskey company. It makes no sense. So they just translate it to manga label is what it's called in Taiwan and Japan. They refer to it as manga label whiskey.
And now I'm never going to refer to it as anything else. That's the greatest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. What do we think of this Ledaig?
Because it's so classically like grassy and like a hint of like salty sardine fishies, but not going full seafood kind of thing. So yeah, I might share the poll. Thank you for reminding me. I was so excited talking about stuff. Sorry, Ollie.
Yeah, this was a single sherry butt, by the way, 1997, September 97, single sherry butt.
Oh, sherry. It's very, very light in like flavor and color. So yeah, it's super interesting.
We know how the Millstone's going to rate. Can people in their comments just share the top 3 drams of the night? I'm super curious to see how it performs.
Yeah, and like I said, Dave and Simon, you can see the race of votes, same as us, so no spoilers. But yeah, it's always interesting to see how people vote, and obviously, like
it's neck and neck. I have to say, it's enthralling watching this.
yeah, it's the highlight of my week. Like, who needs to go to the races? Like, watching these polls is actually the greatest thing ever, in my personal opinion. But yeah,
really
it's so exciting to see the whiskies that we've been trying tonight and see how they rate.
There are some, absolutely cracking drams in this lineup. I've got a few favorites. I can't. It's hard to pick one.
No, it depends what. Yeah, as the evening goes on, you'll change your mind, and as you go back to them, you'll change your mind. It always, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. All right, we got. Oh, I was gonna say, I was like, there's one more posted about. I think that's you, Ollie. So thank you, because you jumped out and back in. So I will end the poll. We will show the results. Drum roll, please. We have, unsurprisingly, Millstone as the winner, but I'm thrilled to see the Ledaig and the Clynelish neck and neck. Also surprised no love for the blended. I think I'm a bit of an old man on the inside. I do love old blended whiskies. It's my jam. But yeah, it's amazing to see some love for the Bunnahabhain as well. I'm thrilled to see that. But yeah, and even in the comments as well, the Clynelish and the Millstone and the Ledaig were really the three main.
I mean, even if the blended didn't get a vote in that poll, would anyone send that back, or was that a delicious dram still?
Yeah. we got the head nods. It was still delicious. Yeah.
It's just tough competition tonight.
Very tough competition. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dave. I know, again, this was a bit of a surprise morning call for you.
I love to start my day like this. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's you're fortifying yourself for the day ahead. That's.
I've got another one to do this evening at 8 o'clock. Yeah.
Brilliant. Just don't stop. Just keep tasting whiskey all day.
Yep.
Got to do some video in between. So yeah.
Amazing.
I got another. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
And then off to Paris. Yeah.
All right, no. All right, I'm not thanking you anymore. You're going to Paris, so I'm very jealous.
Whiskey Live Paris, right, Dave?
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's a show. Seriously, that is a show. I've never seen anything as big as that.
Yeah.
And it will be bigger this year. It is flat out hard work. I mean, we've just done the whiskey show in London 2 weeks ago, and that was flat. The only time I got off the stand was to go and grab something to eat. And go to the little boys' room, and there was 4 of us there at one time. When none of us had a chance to really have a good look around, we were rammed. We did have a lot of whiskies to pour. We had 24 whiskies that we were pouring throughout. We were doing quick change of costumes, change of whiskies. So we had 6 Australians, and we'd all have hats and Australian flags out, and then we'd swap everything around, put our baseball gear on for the American whiskies, and then throw them off and put our sort of t-shirts with bow ties on and waistcoats and have our cinema series. So yeah, we were flat out. Yeah. Busy.
Amazing. Well, we'll have to let you in on our when I was up at the Whiskey Live London earlier this year, we had a marketing tactic, shall we say, that I like to affectionately refer to as kamikaze koalas. Little clip-on koalas that you get at duty free. We stuck them everywhere. So we'll send you some kamikaze koalas for your next Return to Oz showcase. But otherwise, thank you so much, everyone, for coming along tonight. Thank you, Dave and Simon, for joining us. That officially wraps the technical part of the tasting, the virtual tonight. Simon, if you wanted to hang around, Dave, if you have time, obviously, if you've got places to get to, I totally understand. Very important and busy man. But yeah, if you wanted to hang around, Simon, I think we might have a couple of questions about how to get some hands on Boutique. I know Leo's haranguing about that Launceston. But yeah, if anyone wants to head off, thank you so much for coming. We totally understand. And then yeah, Simon, Ollie, hang on for later and for a little debrief. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Right.
There any? So Ollie is the technical master. I will.
So you can, if you want to just unmute yourself, feel free.